In Paris, a woman named Elise is being tailed by the French police, who are cooperating with Scotland Yard. She sits in a cafe, calmly sipping her tea, when suddenly a courier arrives and hands her a letter. After the courier leaves, the police stop him, suspecting he might be Alexander Pierce. Meanwhile, Elise opens the letter. It's from Alexander Pierce, her former lover. The letter contains detailed instructions on what she must do next. Aware that she's being watched, Elise follows the directions. She must take the 8:22 train to Venice and choose someone with a similar build to Pierce, to make the police believe that man is him. After reading, she burns the letter and leaves the cafe. The police rush in to retrieve it, but only ashes remain. One of the officers collects the fragments, while Elise heads to the train station. She enters the station just as the crowd is exiting, making it hard for the police to follow her. She boards the train and successfully loses her pursuers. At Scotland Yard, Inspector John Atchison, who is leading the investigation into Alexander Pierce, sits in the office of Chief Inspector Jones. Jones reviews the data on the courier arrested in Paris. Atchison suspects that Pierce has undergone plastic surgery and is actually posing as the courier. Jones disagrees, saying that although Pierce controls $744 million in illegal assets, it's unlikely he would disguise himself as a courier. He adds that continuing such an expensive operation without solid leads would be a waste of resources. Meanwhile, the Paris police attempt to reconstruct the contents of the burned letter and manage to decipher a fragment revealing that Elise and Alexander are to meet on the train to Venice. Soon after, Elise boards the train as instructed. She scans the passengers, looking for someone with a build similar to Pierce's, hoping to convince Scotland Yard that the man is Pierce after surgery. She eventually sits next to an American man named Frank Tupelo. Frank is startled but immediately captivated by Elise. After a brief, playful conversation about spy novels, Elise instructs him to invite her to dinner. During dinner, Elise tries to find out who Frank really is. He tells her he's just a math teacher. Meanwhile, a police officer on the train secretly takes a photo of Frank and sends it to Scotland Yard, suspecting that he might be Pierce. The photo is forwarded to Interpol in Italy, and officers are dispatched to wait for him at the station. However, it is soon confirmed that Frank is just an ordinary tourist, not Pierce, and the operation is called off. When the train arrives at its destination, a Scotland Yard employee sees Frank's photo and mistakenly believes he is Pierce, then tips off a British gangster named Reginald Shaw, informing him that Pierce is in Venice. After disembarking, Frank checks his map when Elise suddenly calls out to him from a boat, inviting him to join her. When they arrive at the hotel, Elise asks Frank to stay with her. They pick up the keys to a luxurious suite reserved under Pierce's name, and Elise tells Frank to make himself comfortable. Unbeknownst to them, someone unrelated to the police is watching from afar. Shaw arrives in Venice and orders his men to capture Pierce alive, wanting to know where his stolen money is hidden. That evening, Elise and Frank dine together. Elise admits she's in Venice to meet someone, and when Frank asks who, she simply says that he's unlike anyone she's ever known. Later, they return to the room and share drinks, when Elise notices a bouquet of flowers containing an invitation to a masquerade ball. On the balcony, Elise kisses Frank, unaware that they're being watched by Shaw's men. That night, they sleep in separate rooms, and Frank dreams of Elise. The next morning, Frank is awakened by a waiter bringing breakfast. When he looks into Elise's room, he finds she's gone. As the waiter leaves, Shaw's men break in quietly. Startled, Frank locks himself in the bathroom and tries to call reception, but the clerk doesn't understand what he's saying. When the men open fire, Frank jumps out the window, runs across the rooftops, and leaps onto another balcony, crashing into an Italian policeman before being arrested by the police. At the station, Frank insists that someone tried to kill him and that he got involved in something by accident. He explains that Elise's lover is being hunted and that the killers mistook him for that man. The officers don't believe him, especially since the policeman he collided with accuses him of assaulting an officer. That night, one of the policemen visits Frank's cell and tells him that everything he said is true and that he's not safe there. The officer leads him out, and during a boat ride, explains that Shaw believes Frank is Alexander Pierce, the man who stole his fortune, and that a bounty has been placed on his head. When they dock, the officer meets with Shaw's men, who hand over money as payment for turning Frank in. Frank can't escape because he's chained to the boat, but suddenly, from behind, another boat appears, driven by Elise. She throws him a rope, Frank ties it to the boat, and together they make their escape. The criminals chase after them and open fire on Elise. At one point, one of the men jumps from a bridge onto Frank's boat and tries to cut the tow line. Elise quickly reverses her boat, causing a collision. As she accelerates, the handle connecting Frank's and Elise's boats snaps off, throwing Frank into the water. After a moment, Elise pulls Frank out of the water, and together they sail away from Venice. When Reginald learns about this, he kills one of his men in anger. Meanwhile, Elise tries to unlock the handcuffs restraining Frank. Frank asks why someone wants to kill him, and Elise explains it's because she kissed him. Reginald believes Frank is Alexander Pierce. Frank then learns that Pierce was Shaw's banker who stole $2 billion from him. Shaw owns many casinos and brothels, and when he discovered that his wife was having affairs, he killed all her lovers, including Pierce, who stole his fortune. When Frank asks why Pierce stole from Shaw, Elise answers that it's simply who Pierce is. Elise apologizes for getting Frank involved, but Frank tells her he doesn't regret their kiss. The next morning, they arrive at the airport, and Elise sails away, regretting that they didn't meet in another life. As Frank watches her sail off, he confesses his love for her. Elise then sails to a government building and introduces herself as a British intelligence agent. Inside, she meets with Atchison and tells him she's ready to help locate Pierce to prevent further harm. It turns out Elise was originally assigned to go undercover against Pierce, but she fell in love with him and resigned from her position, until now. She tells Atchison that she will lure Pierce out at the ball that evening and promises to wear a wire. That night, Elise arrives at the ball. Atchison and his team are also there, observing her. Suddenly, a man throws her another letter, and Elise tries to catch it, thinking it's from Pierce. At that moment, Frank steps in her way. They start dancing, but Elise asks him to leave. Frank replies that he'll only leave if she comes with him. Finally, Elise confesses that Frank was nothing more than a pawn in her plan. She had used him. She asks him once more to leave, then walks away alone. When Frank tries to follow her, two of Atchison's men grab him and escort him out. Elise opens the letter and finds a key along with information about the time and location of a meeting. She boards a boat and heads to the designated place. Reginald Shaw follows her, while Atchison pursues in another boat, with Frank on board. Atchison mocks Frank, claiming he knows Frank is really Pierce, then laughs and says that until the operation is over, Frank will remain his prisoner. Elise arrives at the location and enters the building indicated by Pierce, unlocking the door with the key she received. As she steps inside, Shaw appears. He tells her that when someone steals from him, he not only kills them but also their entire family. He adds that he once loved Alexander, until the man betrayed him. He asks where the safe containing the money is, but Elise insists she doesn't know. Meanwhile, Atchison and Frank are eavesdropping on the situation. Frank begs Atchison to send his men in, afraid Shaw will kill her. But Atchison explains that Elise is a trained secret agent and can handle herself. Moments later, a translator arrives to interpret Reginald's conversation with his men. From their words, it's clear that Elise truly doesn't know where the safe is, and if Pierce doesn't show up within 5 minutes, they'll kill her. The sniper asks for permission to shoot, but Atchison refuses, confident that Pierce will appear. Shaw pulls out a knife, ready to strike, but someone suddenly reveals the location of the safe. Shaw opens it and orders Elise to unlock it using the code. At the same time, the sniper reports that someone is approaching. It turns out to be Frank, who managed to escape from the boat. Elise tries to enter the code, but it's incorrect. Just then, Frank bursts into the room and introduces himself as Alexander Pierce. He says that if they release Elise, he'll open the safe. Elise tries to convince them that Frank isn't Pierce, and Reginald also doubts him, noting that Frank doesn't resemble Pierce at all. However, Frank explains that the difference is due to plastic surgery he underwent. Reginald threatens to kill Elise if Frank doesn't open the safe. As Frank approaches the vault, Elise confesses that she loves him. At that same moment, Chief Inspector Jones boards the boat and authorizes the snipers to open fire. The shots kill Shaw and his men, and Frank and Elise embrace. Atchison and the other officers enter the room just as they receive a radio message that the police have captured Pierce, who was apparently near the building. As they leave, Elise confesses to Frank that she loves both him and Pierce. Then Frank opens the safe with the correct code. When Elise realizes that Frank is Alexander Pierce, she kisses him. Atchison approaches the supposed Pierce and questions him. The man admits he's just been receiving money and messages from an unknown source telling him where to be. Atchison realizes that Pierce has deceived them once again and becomes furious. When the police return to the room and blow open the safe, they find a check worth £744 million sterling, the amount Pierce owed in unpaid taxes to the British government. Jones declares the operation complete, but Acheson disagrees, arguing that Pierce is still a wanted man in several countries. Jones, however, insists that they've recovered the stolen money, and since Pierce only stole from a dead gangster, there's no point in continuing the pursuit. Finally, Elise and Frank sail away together, happy at last, free from secrets and running no more, and with that the story ends here.